So today we are going to see how to solve this particular transportation problem which you see on the screen, making use of the northwest corner rule. Now the important thing in transportation problems is that we need to first check whether the total demand is equal to the total supply. If this happens, then this is called a balanced transportation problem. Otherwise, it is an unbalanced transportation problem. So right now what we see is that the total demand is 150 and so is the total supply. You can just add these values and see that they come out to be 150. Likewise, you can add these values and see that they also come out to be 150. Right, so 70 plus 20, 90, and 25 plus 35, that is 60. So 60 plus 90, that is 150. Likewise, we see over here 20 plus 30, 50, and then we have 25 plus 35, that is 60. Okay, and 60. So here also 60 plus 50, 110 plus 40, and that is 150. So therefore, total demand is equal to total supply. This is a balanced transportation problem. Now, we are going to solve this by making use of the northwest corner rule. So let's just fix up the directions first. Why am I doing this? Just to show you which is the northwest corner. So we have east, south. So we are going to start our process of allocation from the northwest corner in this matrix. So basically, in this matrix, if we were to fix this up in the way of directions, then the northwest corner will be this one. This is the one that we are going to start with for making our allocations. Okay, so let me just clear out some of these markings and then we'll get going. So let's start with the northwest corner over here. Now we have to check what is the total supply and what is the total demand. So here we can see for A1 the total supply is 30 and for W1 the total demand is 20. So how much can we allocate to this particular cell? The demand is 20 and the supply is 30. So we need only 20. So therefore I can allocate 20 over here. What does this do? This means this demand is met. It becomes 0. And here this supply is still left. 20 gone, 10 is left over here. Right? Now, as long as the supply or demand is not exhausted, we have to proceed along that row or that column. This is the technique that we use in the northwest corner rule. Okay, so now since there is a supply still remaining with A1, we proceed to the next possible cell where we can make the allocation, and that is A1 W2. So here we see that the demand is 30, the supply is 10. So how much can we allocate? We have only 10. So we are going to allocate 10. So this 10 goes. And now this 30 gets cut out and we are left with 20. So there is no longer any supply in A1. So this is exhausted. So therefore now we will continue to the next cell, which is going to be below the C. Why am I going this way? Because we can see W1 everything is exhausted and A1 everything is exhausted. So the only possible place where I can now move to is A2 W2. Okay, now here we see, and why so? Because W2 has got a demand of 20 that needs to be finished. So here we see the demand is 20, the supply is 40. So I can fulfill this demand of 20 over here. So this becomes 0 and this becomes 20. So, okay. Now W2 is exhausted. So, but still there is a supply with A2. So we move to the next possible cell where we can make an allocation. And now here we see that the demand is 25 and the supply is 20. So I can supply 20 over here. So the supply gets exhausted and we are left with a demand of 5. So now the only possible cell which we can now allocate to is the next one, which is A3, W3. See, we have exhausted W1, W2, A1, A2. So now we come down to A3, W3. Now the supply is 20, but the demand is only 5. So we allocate 5 and then this particular supply becomes 15. So now we have exhausted W3 also. The demand has been met. But we still have a supply of 15 with A3. So the next possible cell where we can make an allocation is in A3W4. Now here we see that the demand is 35 but the supply is 15. So we can allocate 15. So this particular supply gets exhausted and here we are left with 20. Now we see that A1, A2, A3, W1, W2, W3 all are exhausted. So the next option where we can make an allocation is A4, W4. So here we see that we have a demand of 20 and a supply of 25. So since the demand is 20, we give an allocation of 20 and this supply gets reduced to 5 and this particular demand gets exhausted. So now we see W1, W2, W3, W4 all are exhausted. We still have a supply with A4. So we proceed to the next possible cell, which is A4, W5. And here we see that the demand is 40 but the supply is 5. So we can allocate only 5. Now this supply gets exhausted and this demand gets reduced to 35. So now A1, A2, A3, A4, the supply is exhausted. So we move to A5 and we have a demand at W5. So this is the cell where we are going to make the allocation. So here we see that both the demand and the supply are 35. So we make this particular allocation 35 and this as 0. So you can see over here that the demand and the supply are now completely exhausted. So we have to find the initial basic feasible solution using the northwest corner rule. Now we have made all these allocations. So everywhere we see that we could exhaust the supply as well as the demand. Now you have to calculate the value of Z by doing what? By multiplying the per unit cost which is given in the cells into the number of units allocated. So it's like 4 into 20 plus 6 into 10 plus and so on. So it's the costs, okay, multiplied by the number of units which we allocated. So what you can do is you can complete this calculation and write your answer in the comments box. So I get to know what is your answer which you have got in the comments box. Thank you for watching. Hope you understood the northwest corner rule for solving for the initial basic feasible solution of a balanced transportation problem.